Let us see how to handle a bi-tonal image, or a duotone. The image we have at our disposal, which is this one, is a very flat image. This is because it is a logarithmic image, so to be correctly interpreted, it must be force normalized. The problem is, we do not know how it was shot, so we are going to use a generic conversion lookup table. We are therefore going to select one from the LUTs 3D LUT VFX.io. We will try with a slog2 to linear that should work for us. And to complete the normalization process, we will go to apply a small correction of highlights, shadows and midtones. In view of the duotone shift, we correct gamma and gain as well to expand a bit more the luma curve. We then move on to another serial node from where we are going to do the duotone shift. What is a duotone? Basically, a duotone is the mapping of two chromatids to specific luminance levels. We will not touch the dynamic range, but create a lift and gain bitonality. Specifically, we are going to push the lift towards the warm colors, then giving the whole shady part of the image a warmer feeling, and the gain to the cool ones. We intervene quite massively by pulling out two prevailing colors in the image. The more we push these two sectors, the more we get a strong bitonality. On this instance, we have worked preserving the original image chroma. This can be a choice. We maintain saturation and starting color elements to give a less flat mood and less strength to our duotone. The other option is to intervene on the saturation level as well. If we add a serial node in the middle of a sequence of nodes and we go to completely deprive the footage of saturation, we see a noticeable change in the image. Bitonal elements are further remarked by creating a different effect. It remains much softer in the bitonal form with the saturation of the original image intact, while it becomes a much drier treatment. It is much stronger if we deprive the image of its original chroma. Let us now see how to handle a three-tone shift, a tritone. A tritone is a shift based on applying different chromatic balances to different segments of our luminance curve. Obviously, to do this, we will necessarily have to work on a completely desaturated image. In the first node, we prepare the image by removing all saturation, and then proceed with the separation of the signal flow on different levels. We add a serial node where we do a luminance validation to isolate the shadows, so the lower part of the luma curve. We need to turn on the mask, and as you can see, there is no selection now. Let us expand it until we have the image component we want. We are going to use very soft selections because these images are going to have to intersect each other. So get a nice slice of the shadows. If we need more contrast, we can create it by increasing the contrast level of the original image and then going to readjust the selection accordingly. We keep a 10 value of softness, more or less as a general rule, thus to extrapolate the component of images we need. Within this selection, we will perform the chromatic shift. Let us say we want to bring the shadows to blue. We are going to make, working on individual channels or even with the offset, a sensitive shift of the shadows towards the blue. Then we add another serial node, this time where we operate on the midtones. Let us do another validation, always working on luminance, that only takes the central part of the image instead. Do not get the lower portion of the curve. Give a softness here as well and isolate a slice of midtones, highlights and shadows. If the softness at 10 is a little too much, reduce it. On the midtones it is not so correct. Then let us shift the midtones to orange. Then maybe make it a little less hypersaturated. Finally, add a fourth corrector. Connect it to the source, and within this corrector do a validation once again, but select only the highest part of the luma range. In this case, we will make an even different offset, for example, towards the magenta. Once we have set up the three nodes, thus creating the three different shades, add a parallel node. In it, add an input and connect the three color correctors to merge in a single flow. At this point, we can safely, key by key, go and check and modify the selections. For example, we do not want to take these parts in the highlights, then we can reduce the validation. Or we want to select them in the midtones, then extend this part of the key. Maybe leave a little more space to the blacks, that we will extend in return. This way we achieve the final result that can be easily modified.